Hi everyone, I'm JosieWose and thanks for joining in Storytime with me. Today we're going to be reading Encanto, the Disney movie collection, a special Disney storybook series. If you like this book, make sure you go out and buy it so you can read along with me. And if you haven't seen the movie, make sure you check it out. The music in the movie is just phenomenal. Alrighty, here we go. Years ago, when Alma and Pedro Madrigal became parents, Pedro promised they would leave their troubled world behind and build a better life for their family. Alma bundled up their triplets, and by the light of a single candle, the young couple left in search of a new home. Another group, who were also looking for a safe place to live, joined them on their journey. But as they reached a rushing river, the danger they were trying to escape from caught up to them. Pedro gave Alma and the babies one last kiss and turned back to defend them. When Pedro did not return, Alma fell to her knees. Heartbroken, she held her babies close and prayed for a miracle. Suddenly, her candle bloomed with magic. Bright light blasted away the darkness, and hundreds of butterflies appeared, fluttering around its glow. Mountains rose, stretching towards the sky. Their new home emerged inside a lush valley, a safe place full of wonder and possibility. An Encanto. A magical house, lovingly called Casita, grew around Alma and her babies, protecting them as if it were a member of the family. Over the years, the candle burned brightly, and the magic grew in unexpected ways. The Madrigal children and grandchildren were blessed with special gifts. When the time was right, each child received a glowing door and discovered their own unique bit of magic. It was important to Alma, who was now an abuela, that they earned the miracle and that each family member proudly share their gift with the community, making the Encanto a paradise. On the day that her granddaughter Mirabel was to get her special gift, Abuela Alma held the magic candle and said, "Tonight, this candle will give you your gift, mi vida. Strengthen our family, strengthen our community. Make your family proud." "Make my family proud," repeated Mirabel. Casita nudged them to get ready, helping them along. Mirabel held Abuela's hand and asked, "What do you think my gift will be?" Abuela's eyes twinkled as she looked at Mirabel with hope and pride. "You are a wonder, Mirabel Madrigal," she said. "Whatever gift awaits will be just as special as you." One day, 10 years later, a group of children from the nearby village asked Mirabel to tell them about each Madrigal family member's special ability. Mirabel started with the triplets. Tia Peppa could control the weather with her moods. The family didn't talk about Tio Bruno since he disappeared, but they say he saw the future. Mirabel's mother, Julieta, healed people with the food she cooked. The oldest cousin, Dolores, had incredible ears. She could hear a pin drop, and cousin Camilo was able to turn into anyone with his shape-shifting ability. Mirabel's youngest cousin, Antonio, was set to receive his gift later that day. So, everyone was busy preparing for his ceremony. Next, Mirabel explained her older sister's gifts. Isabella, her perfect oldest sister, created amazing flowers, and Louisa, the rock of the family, was super strong. When the children asked Mirabel about her gift, she avoided answering. Dolores, overhearing the conversation, said, "Oh, Mirabel didn't get one." The children felt sorry for her. "If I was you, I'd be really sad," said a little girl. Mirabel smiled. "Well, my little friends, I am not, because the truth is, gift or no gift, I am just as special as the rest of my family." "Maybe your gift is being in denial," said the girl. Mirabel hurried off to help prepare for Antonio's ceremony. As the family used their magic to create a beautiful space for the celebration, Mirabel worked extra hard, trying to find some way to contribute. Of course, she couldn't help but stop and marvel at the fantastic things the others were doing, as she struggled under the weight of a large basket of craft supplies. Mirabel's parents noticed how hard she was working, and they were concerned. Antonio's ceremony was the first one since Mirabel didn't get her gift, so they knew it would be a tough day. As Julieta cooked up a cure for her husband Augustine's bee stings, which had blown up like balloons, he told Mirabel he understood how she felt. Marrying into the family meant he didn't have a special gift either. Mirabel insisted she was fine. When Abuela saw Mirabel drop some supplies, she reminded her the evening had to go perfectly. The whole town relies on our family, on our gifts, so the best way for some of us to help is to step aside. Let the rest of the family do what they do best, okay? Mirabel agreed, but couldn't hide her disappointment. While everyone was busy with preparations, the guest of honor himself was nowhere to be found. Mirabel had an idea where he might be. She went to the nursery and found him hiding under his bed. "You have nothing to worry about," she said, trying to calm his nerves. "What if it doesn't work?" asked Antonio. "Well, in that impossible scenario, you'd stay here in the nursery with me, forever, and I get you all to myself." She gave him a little toy jaguar. "I made this, so when you move into your cool new room, you'll always have something to snuggle with." Mirabel hugged Antonio before Casita practically shoved them out of the room. The ceremony was about to begin. When it was time for Antonio to walk towards his door, he froze with fear. He reached out to Mirabel and whispered, "I need you." Mirabel took a deep breath, clasped his hand and said, "Let's get you to your door." As they began walking, memories flooded Mirabel's mind as she relived her own ceremony. She recalled eagerly reaching out for her door, only to see it fade away, leaving her with nothing. No special gift or magic, just an overwhelming feeling of confusion and disappointment. She held back tears and pushed the awful memories away, focusing back on Antonio. When Antonio gripped his doorknob, he was filled with magic. Pico, a toucan, landed on his arm and chirped. "I understand you!" exclaimed Antonio. Dozens of animals appeared, surrounding him and his door, forming an animal menagerie. Abuela proudly announced, "We have a new gift!" The crowd cheered and the fireworks shot up into the sky. Antonio entered his bedroom, thrilled to see that it was a vast rainforest. He shouted with delight as a jaguar scooped him up and took him for a ride past waterfalls and palm trees. "Woohoo!" Abuela threw her arms around Antonio. "I knew you could do it. A gift just as special as you," she said, hugging him tightly. Mirabel stood, still as a statue, watching and listening from the bedroom entrance. She was happy for Antonio, but felt a new kind of loneliness. "We need a picture," said Abuela, calling the family together. "It's a great night. It's a perfect night." As the madrigals gathered to pose for the photo, Mirabel walked away, feeling like she wasn't truly part of the family. Mirabel moved around the quiet house alone, longing to have a shining moment and wishing she had a special gift to share. Suddenly, a tile from the roof fell, shaking her from her thoughts. She picked it up, and its jagged edge cut her hand. The courtyard tiles began to flash and fritz. Mirabel gently touched the floor and said, "Casita?" Crack! A small break appeared in the tile beside her hand. Mirabel watched with eyes wide as the crack splintered and began to grow. She slowly stepped back as more and more cracks appeared, rippling out and filling the courtyard. Casita seemed to groan as the cracks multiplied, stretching down the hallway. Mirabel followed them all the way to Abuela's candle and gasped as the bright flame flickered and dimmed. Terrified, she hurried off to find Abuela. Mirabel burst into the party and shouted, "The house is in danger!" The music stopped and an awkward silence fell over the crowd. The tiles were falling and there were cracks everywhere and the candle almost went out. Mirabel breathlessly explained. "Show me," said Abuela. Everyone followed as Mirabel led the way. But when they arrived, the cracks had vanished and the candle glowed brightly. Mirabel was stunned. The cracks were there. They were everywhere, she explained. "There is nothing wrong with La Casita Madrigal," announced Abuela. She gave Mirabel a stern look and told everyone to get back to the party. As Mirabel's mum, Julieta, prepared a remedy for Mirabel's hand, they talked about what had happened. Everyone thought Mirabel had made the story up to ruin Antonio's night, but she insisted she would never do that. "I wish you could see yourself the way I do," said Julieta. "You are perfect, just like this. You're just as special as anyone else in this family." But Mirabel stood firm. "I know what I saw." Julieta sighed. "Mira, my brother Bruno lost his way in this family. I don't want the same for you. Get some sleep. You'll feel better tomorrow." That night, Mirabel lay in bed wide awake. She replayed what she saw in the courtyard again and again in her mind until she couldn't be still any longer. Finally, while everyone else was asleep, she got up to investigate. She climbed up on the roof and headed for the candle in Abuela's window, searching for some evidence of damage. But there were no cracks. All was quiet and clear. The house seemed completely normal. Then she heard Abuela's voice. Surprised that she was awake, Mirabel peered into the window. Abuela was talking to a photo of Abuelo Pedro about the magic dying. "In our family, we knew how vulnerable we truly are. If our miracle is dying," Abuela paused, full of emotion, "we cannot lose our home again." Mirabel listened closely, making sure she heard every word. "Why is this happening?" Abuela asked Abuelo Pedro. "Open my eyes, mi vida. If the answer is here, help me find it. Help me protect our family. Help me save our miracle." Mirabel knew this was her chance to shine. She was determined to help her family and save the magic. The next morning, Mirabel questioned Dolores, hoping her ears may have picked up on something helpful. When Dolores said she heard Luisa's eye twitching during the night, Mirabel knew she had to talk to her sister. By the time Mirabel caught up to her, Luisa was already carrying some lost donkeys back to the owners. "What's going on? What are you hiding?" Mirabel asked. "Nothing, just got a lot of chores. So maybe you should go home, Louisa answered. But Mirabel could tell she knew something and continued to question her. Finally, Louisa snapped. She exploded with emotion, sharing some honest feelings that had been buried down deep inside of her. She admitted she was under an enormous amount of pressure, taking on the weight of everyone's burdens. Mirabel was stunned into silence and simply wrapped her big sister in a hug. I had no idea, she said. Louisa squeezed her back very tightly and breathed a huge sigh of relief. She looked at her sister and admitted that when Mirabel had seen the cracks, Louisa had felt weak. Wait, what do you mean? What do you think is going on with the magic? Asked Mirabel. Don't know, but I heard the grown-ups once, before Tio Bruno left. He had some terrible vision about it, said Louisa. As she returned to her chores, Mirabel wondered about the vision and what it had shown. If something is wrong with the magic, start with Bruno's tower, said Louisa. Find that vision. Mirabel headed to Bruno's creepy tower. It was dusty and dark inside. Sand spilled from above, making it nearly impossible for Mirabel to see. Casita, can you turn off the sand? She asked. The floorboards outside his room waved and tapped a message to her. You can't help in here? Asked Mirabel, realizing the danger of going somewhere completely alone. I'll be fine. I need to do this, she said. She bravely stepped through the sand and slid down a giant dune. When Mirabel finally stopped at the bottom, she found herself inside an enormous room. Hundreds of stairs led the way up, and Mirabel could see something glowing at the very top. Pico flew down next to her and seemed to smile. Oh, hello, said Mirabel. A lot of stairs, but at least I'll have a friend. At that moment, the toucan left Mirabel and flew up to the top with ease. Mirabel sighed and began to climb. When Mirabel finally made her way to the very top, she entered a dark room with nothing but a circle of sand in the center. Empty, said Mirabel, confused. But she soon found glowing green pieces of Bruno's vision in the sand. She picked up one of the shards and was surprised to see an image of... Me? Said Mirabel. The place began to shake and crumble apart as streams of sand poured in. She collected the shards before being pushed out of the storm by a tidal wave of sand. Mirabel hurried to her bedroom to try to piece together the vision, but when Tia Pepper appeared, she hid the shards and casually asked about Bruno. Pepper cut her off. We don't talk about Bruno, she said firmly. Tia Felix, Pepper's husband, explained that bad things happened when Bruno saw the future. Everyone agreed he was a terrifying man with his pet rats and terrible visions. Even mentioning his name made people shiver. Mirabel regretted even bringing Bruno up and could tell she would have to find the answers on her own. And she knew she had to do it fast. Louisa was losing her gift. She struggled to move even a pot plant. When Mirabel finally got a moment alone, she arranged the broken vision pieces together like a puzzle. The image came into view. There was Casita, covered in cracks, with Mirabel in the very center of it. She stared at it, quietly panicking, trying to figure out what it meant. Then she heard her dad's voice reminding her it was time to get ready for the family dinner that had been planned by the Guzmans. "Mirabel," he called, "got your party pants on? 'Cause I do." As Augustine entered, his eyes popped wide at the sight of the vision. Knowing she had been caught, Mirabel spilled the whole story. Augustine quickly stuffed the pieces into his pocket. He forced a tight-lipped smile and said, "We say nothing. Abuela wants tonight to be perfect. Till the Guzmans leave, you did not break into Bruno's tower. The magic is not dying. The house is not breaking. Louisa's gift is not fading. No one will know. Just act normal, he said. Suddenly, they heard a noise. The two turned to see Dolores across the courtyard, and her expression said it all. She had heard every word. At the dinner with the Guzmans, Mirabel tried her best to act normal. Then, Mariana Guzman proposed to Isabella. Isabella, most graceful of all the madrigals, he awkwardly began. But the cracks appeared, and Casita began to malfunction. Abuela Guzman gasped, "What is happening?" Dolores blurted, "Mirabel found Bruno's vision. She's in it. She's going to destroy the magic, and now we're all doomed." Chaos took over, and everyone's powers fritzed out of control. Pepper's emotions caused a storm, scaring Antonio's animals, and vines shot out of Isabella's fingers, smacking right into Mariano's face. Despite Abuela's pleading, the Guzmans marched out. The whole family glared at Mirabel. She defended herself and blamed Bruno's vision for the ruining evening. But her voice trailed off as a moving green glow caught her eye. Somehow, rats had gotten hold of the vision pieces, and they were carrying them away. Mirabel followed the rats through a hidden entrance and into a dark passageway behind the walls. Suddenly, a flash of lightning revealed Tio Bruno. Their eyes met for a single moment before he raced off. "Stop!" shouted Mirabel. She tried to catch up, chasing him through the twisted corridors. Bruno leapt across the chasm and Mirabel followed, but as she landed, the floor beneath her collapsed. She caught herself on the edge of the remaining floor by a finger. "Help me!" she yelled as she lost her grip. Her hand was grabbed mid-air. "You are very sweaty," said Bruno, trying to hold on to her. Mirabel looked at him with surprise. He didn't look scary at all. Suddenly, the floor beneath Bruno caved in. Mirabel grabbed a post and caught him by the collar, but Bruno slipped from her grip and fell into the darkness, and landed just a few feet below. Thankfully, they weren't in a chasm at all. Mirabel and Bruno climbed out of the hole. "Bye," said Bruno as he took off again. Mirabel followed him until they reached a room. "You never left?" she said, looking around at all his stuff. When she asked him about the vision, he said he had it the night she didn't get her gift. He described it so vividly. It was as if Mirabel were able to watch him having the vision where he was seeing the house breaking, the magic in danger, and then Mirabel. He didn't know what it meant, but guessed the fate of the family would come down to her. Bruno resisted at first, but Mirabel convinced him to have another vision. Suddenly, Pico flew in with Antonio and the other animals. "The rats told me everything," Antonio said, ready to help. Bruno needed a bigger space to have a vision, so Antonio suggested they go to his bedroom. As Bruno began the ritual, Mirabel held his hands and encouraged him. Soon, the vision became visible to her. When it grew dark, Bruno wanted to end it, but Mirabel gave his hands a supportive squeeze and said, "The family needs you." As they searched together, Mirabel spotted a small glow and guided him towards it. Soon, they could see it was a butterfly. They followed it to the image of a young woman. "Embrace her, and you will see the way," chanted Bruno. Mirabel was disappointed to find out the young woman she had to embrace was her annoyingly perfect older sister, Isabella. "She won't hug me, she hates me," said Mirabel. She went on, aggravated that it was Isabella who had to be the one to help. Senorita Perfecta always has to have all the answers. Bruno told Mirabel she was missing the point. The fate of the family is not up to her, it's up to you. You're the best of us. You just have to see it." Taking a deep breath, Mirabel walked into Isabella's room and suggested they hug out their differences. Isabella glared at her. "Hug it out?" she said. Mirabel continued to try her best, suggesting a warm embrace to lift Isabella's mood. But Isabella placed a flower across her mouth, silencing her. When Mirabel accused Isabella of only worrying about herself, she blamed Mirabel for always messing things up. "Nothing is messed up," she said Mirabel. "You can still marry that big dumb hunk." "I never wanted to marry him," shouted Isabella. "I was doing it for the family." With that, something strange happened. Instead of making perfect flowers, she created a prickly cactus. As Isabella continued sharing her true feelings, new and unique plants sprang from her fingertips. Mirabel encouraged her to keep going, and the two had a blast enjoying the wonderful creations together. Mirabel smiled as she noticed Abuela's candle shining brightly. Exhilarated, Isabella grabbed Mirabel, hugging her tightly, and carried her through a colourful kaleidoscope of plants and flowers. The sisters landed in the courtyard laughing together. They looked at each other with new eyes, full of gratitude, love, and respect. But when Abuela saw the strange plants, she was furious. Her angry voice cut through the warm moment. "What have you done?" she yelled. Mirabel told Abuela how the candle burned bright, but Abuela's anger only grew. "What are you talking about? Look at our home! Look at your sister!" she shouted. Mirabel begged Abuela to listen to her. "Isabella wasn't happy." "Of course she wasn't happy. You ruined her proposal," interrupted Abuela. Mirabel insisted she was meant to save the magic, but Abuela shouted, "You have to stop, Mirabel! The cracks started with you!" A tremor shook the entire Encanto. "Bruno left because of you," continued Abuela. "Louise is losing her powers. Isabella's out of control because of you. I don't know why you weren't given a gift, but it's not an excuse for you to hurt this family." Cracks appeared across all of Casita's walls, and Mirabel could barely respond. But as she noticed the cracks leading to Abuela, she found her voice. "I'll never be good enough for you, no matter how hard I try, no matter how hard any of us tries." Cracks rippled out between them, moving through the Encanto, breaking it apart. "I love this family," shouted Mirabel. "The miracle is dying because of you." A huge crack nearly split up Casita. It snaked up the candle, causing it to teeter. "No, no, no, the candle!" shouted Peppa. Everyone rushed towards it, but they fumbled as their magic began to disappear. All of the doors faded, and their gifts were gone. The house desperately tried to usher everyone to safety. Mirabel bravely raced across the roof. She reached the candle as Bruno's tower began to fall towards her. Casita pushed Mirabel out of the way just in time. The flame went out, and Casita collapsed into a pile of rubble. Mirabel stood, stunned and heartbroken, in the center of the wreckage. The house she loved so much lay in pieces. The town was broken too, and the cracks extended widely throughout the Encanto. As the sounds of the family arguing filled the air, Mirabel wanted to disappear. She looked towards the broken mountains around the Encanto and headed off alone. Mirabel ran as far and as fast as she could until she stumbled at the edge of a river. Sitting on a rock, she stared at her reflection in the water. Moments later, a quiet voice appeared behind her, said, "Mirabel." It was Abuela. Words poured out as Mirabel apologized. "I'm sorry. I didn't want to hurt us," she said through tears. Abuela looked out at the water. "I've never been able to. come back here. This river is where we were given our miracle." Mirabel knew that meant it was where Abuelo Pedro was lost. Abuela shared memories of Pedro and their love for each other. She talked about their last night together. Then she confessed she was so afraid of losing the miracle that Pedro had sacrificed himself for. And that was why she always demanded so much of her family. She was desperate to keep the magic alive. Finally, she turned to Mirabel and said, "You never hurt our family, Mirabel. We are broken because of me." Mirabel looked at Abuela with sadness and sympathy. A butterfly fluttering near a reed in the river caught her eye. She watched it land, then took Abuela's hands and led her into the water. As they walked towards the butterfly, Mirabel reminded Abuela of all she had done for the family. "You carried so much for so long, because there is nothing you care about more than our family." Abuela felt something inside of her shift, and as sunlight peeked through the clouds, she looked at Mirabel with great pride. "I asked my Pedro for help, Mirabel. He sent me you." She wrapped her arms around Mirabel and more butterflies appeared, swirling around them. Then Bruno arrived on a horse. To his surprise, Abuela hugged him. Then the three of them climbed onto Bruno's steed and left the river. "What's happening? Where are we going?" asked Bruno. "Home," said Mirabel, leading the way. An eerie darkness enveloped the Encanto and no one spoke, certain that all was lost. Suddenly, Antonio gasped as he saw something in the distance. He pointed towards the horizon. There, shining brightly, was Mirabel on a horse with Abuela and Bruno behind her. A ribbon of glittering butterflies followed them as they rode towards their family. The horse skidded to a stop in front of the ruined house, and Mirabel climbed down, pausing only a moment to look at the damage. "We're going to be okay," she said. Then she turned to the family and told them they were much more than their magical gifts. Abuela walked up beside Mirabel and apologized to everyone. Abuela told them she had been focusing on the wrong things because of her fear of losing them. Then she called Bruno over and tearfully watched as her triplets reunited in a hug. Mirabel stood proudly beside Abuela as she echoed Mirabel's words, telling the family that the real miracle and magic was not their gifts. It was simply all of them. A sudden sound filled the air, and the magical family turned to see an incredible sight. The townspeople appeared, coming over the mountain, ready to help. They all worked together, side by side, picking up the rubble and rebuilding their home. It was time. Abuela gave Mirabel the last piece of the house to put into place. The doorknob Mirabel was given on her gift day all those years ago. Mirabel looked at her reflection in the doorknob and smiled. Then she put it into the front door and whoosh! Casita came back to life. Butterflies swept through the Encanto, mending cracks and restoring it to a new splendor. The magic returned even stronger than before, and everyone got their special gifts back. Mirabel was proud to be a madrigal, and she had the greatest gift of all. She saw the magic inside everyone. Well, thanks for reading that story with me, everyone. If you like this video, make sure you hit like and subscribe for more videos just like it. I'm JosieWose, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.